Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
And this big geek Umar calling you from all the way from Colombia.
Woo woo! Tech support
Uh,
is in the
I thought you were gonna
house.
I thought you were gonna say calling you from AT&T, bro.
yeah, let's just say that given the agenda for this podcast and being able to watch a few things while over here, I felt I had to do something, and unfortunately, I don't have my usual tools for the podcast, but I might as well go tech support in order to join my bros for at least one extra week than I originally planned.
Absolutely. I feel like I need to you need some help with this right now. If that's okay.
Have you tried turning it on?
Motherfucker, you can see the numbers.
No, that was from IT crowd.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. That show was amazing. Oh, all right, man.
So I actually don't know the agenda.
I did. Well, we said it to you before, but I didn't know if you was gonna just drop it or not. Okay, so first up, we are going to get into the conversation around Jamie Foxx and what has been going on there. So, are you guys both abreast with all the information, or shall I lay it down for you?
You
Might
said
as
it.
well.
Down.
Absolutely. Okay, so about 4 weeks ago, on set when the new movie he's doing with Cameron Diaz, he had some form of serious condition.
Right. Yeah.
I think the reports were something related to a seizure or some information, and
Stroke?
he has been known to having some kind of I think hypertension or something related to his heart. Anyways, so weeks have passed and no news has come out, and then about within this week people started saying there started being this quote going around that his family is preparing for the worst. And what has happened today, thankfully, I'm gonna cut to the chase here. I'm gonna cut to the chase. His daughter today posted an Instagram story being like, he's at home recuperating, he's doing fine, he was literally playing some athletic sport today in his home. And she's like, it's like, oh, how horrible it is that the media has been spinning this the way that they've been spinning this. And earlier today, I was watching a quick video of John Campea talking about this, and he was like, he dove into where that quote came from, and it was
Yeah.
a person who's not related to anything and towards the family who had a very speculative statement, which is, if he's been in the hospital this long, it couldn't be anything good, right? Which is like a
Right.
complete if you ask me a question, if you've been in the hospital for 4 weeks, no one said anything, I'm like, yeah, that don't sound good. And then you just take that and post that somewhere and be like, oh, some random person, blah 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 blah, close to the source. So, anyways, this is a clear case of media spinning things for their benefit, but not
Yeah.
really to anybody else's benefit. So, what do you guys think about this? Umar, let's go to you first.
Um, this kind of feels like the media wanting to garner some level of attention. Also, it like my first instinct for conspiracy theory is that maybe whatever film he was working on, it's like someone on the production company was like, "Hey, we need to keep people aware of that this is still coming out," and maybe kind of up it up by saying, "Hey, yo, the star is dying," and then it's like, "Ooh, he made it through." But then it could just be that some people just want to say shit and they're just saying shit. So I would say that at the very least, this is very irresponsible journalism and reporting, because whoever posted that or whoever like um, reported on it, uh, they're just being fact checked by the family member, and that's not a good look for them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, TMZ, I think, was definitely pushing a lot of this.
Yeah.
Tactics, what are your
So,
thoughts? Oh, sorry, I didn't. I thought you were.
oh no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
So, Tactics, what are your thoughts?
Um, yeah, I mean, this seems to be the media's MO quite a bit, and it kind of makes me reflect on the whole Jonathan Majors situation. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I haven't really been following it too closely as of recently, but I've heard I'm hearing a lot of mixed things in regards to like him finally going to court and then him being sentenced to jail. But then on the other side of the spectrum, it's like him. There's like video that shows that he wasn't part of the physical altercation or whatever the case may be. So I mean, it's hard to say, and that's why I always tend to reserve judgment, or um I don't jump to any kind of assumptions until I see all the hardcore facts, right? And so with this whole thing with Jamie Foxx, at this point, the media has had a history of spinning things to their own narrative that it's hard to believe everything you see and hear in the public eye, right? So I'm glad that you know it's been confirmed that he is out of the hospital and he is doing okay. So yeah, because that the headlines were kind of concerning because it was like, shit, man, Jamie Foxx might die, and that's it's weird. It's weird to think about because like he's so vibrant and full of life, and
Yeah.
still a young guy, So to hear new news of him potentially, like possibly dying is kind of crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
on, bro. Go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, he's younger in body than he is in actual years. So like, that man is like healthy for beyond whatever health complications he has. He's still very healthy. But Umar, your additional thoughts there?
Oh, I was going to say that, like, T, I kind of like what you had to say about the connection between Jonathan Majors and this, because I've been hearing that, like, the current rumor is that that Marvel is actively looking to recast Jonathan Majors over this controversy, and that the current frontline rumors, current frontline choice for the recasting is John Boyega.
I mean,
Now,
I don't want everything to turn out negatively, but if anybody, I'm yeah.
yeah, like I will say that, like, I'm with you, Tactics. Like, there's a lot on both sides right now. Like I'm not one to believe someone's lawyer as like a true aspect of fact, but the video has repeatedly, and I think it's like from the third day this thing came out, there has been constant statements that there is a video that exonerates Jonathan Majors.
Mhm.
However, there are aspects of like the text messages that were released by the lawyer, which, yes, just showed that the woman involved was saying that, I'm sorry, I'm going to fix this, but there are some who viewed it as an abused partner just trying to not upset her partner again. And also we have other allegations, again, non-confirmed, don't know who they are, don't know where they're getting this information from, who've said that this is a pattern, a history of Jonathan Majors. So, like, there's really no clarity there. And it's, if this example of what happened with Jamie Foxx is to be like, I'm going to trust the daughter, because, like, why would she lie about her father's health? So if it's gotten to this point, then it's going to be hard to trust a lot of the things negative about Jonathan Majors, or positive. So I'm like you, T. I'm going to sit back, see where this unfolds, see what comes out. But I'm not going to be harping against him, because, like, people really jumped on the bandwagon to like to vilify him.
Mhm.
But I'm also like, I'm not going to be like, oh man, like I do consider him to be, if not the, at least the top five most talented actors right now.
Mhm.
So, like, but that doesn't say anything about the person as the individual as a person. So I want him to have a good career if he's innocent. I don't want this to, like, torpedo anything. If he's guilty, cool. Get him out of the limelight. Hopefully they'll actually do that with Ezra Miller, but that's a whole other thing. But I'm just glad that Jamie Foxx, because, like, I'm not gonna lie, Darcy, when you started telling the story, I was like, oh God, please, please, please don't kill Jamie Foxx. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that Jamie Foxx is, like, currently pulling well, and, like, hopefully will recover. But I'm with you, T. Like, yeah, I'm not going to trust too much
Yeah,
here.
just another story that came out. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it kind of blew over fairly quickly after. But apparently, Usher recently threw Chris Brown a birthday party at this skating arena or whatever, and apparently Chris Brown has beef with this other R&B singer, Tiana Taylor, and she showed up, and Chris
I'm
Brown.
already. I know enough about Deanna Taylor
Yeah.
to know that this can't go well.
Well, so okay, so just for context, like she was in support of Chris Brown. Like she stood by him during the whole Rihanna thing, and she lost a lot of fans for it. But like I guess they had a not a like they had a platonic relationship prior to all of that. So it was just her being a friend and being like, yeah, like what he did was fucked up, but that's my boy, so I'm gonna stick by him regardless, kind of thing. But then he was supposed to do MJ tribute performance at like an award show or whatever, and she was supposed to be a part of it, but she pulled out last minute, and I guess he didn't like that, and so as a result, the whoever was organizing the award show, they dropped him altogether. They dropped his act, so he wasn't able to perform. So he was pretty salty about it. She shows up at the party, and then some kind of argument ensues, and then there's footage of Usher trying to calm Chris Brown down, and then all of a sudden, like we don't get the full video, and then in the news the next day, it's like uh Chris Brown and his boys jumped Usher and gave him a bloody nose or something like that, and everyone was like, "What the fuck?" And so it
Mm.
turned into this big uproar. And then after that, Usher came, like I guess he had a show the next day. He came out, he came and he did a video, and he looked fine. He didn't speak about the event, but like it didn't look like there was any kind of scuffle or his face was all bruised up or anything like that. So again, it's one of those cases where like the media kind of fabricates things and like runs with it,
Yep.
especially because I mean, if there's an altercation, you would think that somebody would have some video footage of the event that occurred and we would see something go down, right? But as far as I know, there's no video footage regarding anybody jumping Usher. So yeah, just
Mm.
another example of media fabrication.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate in day and age we live in. Like, I did years ago. I did in college and in high school. I did like radio broadcasting, and something that I learned during a period of time, you had to learn about like radio journalism, but like it's like a simple version of journalism, where you're just reporting the information, and you would generally have to like write stuff out. And I've always stuck with me that the way you're supposed to write in any news outlet when you're just reporting information is in a matter of fact way of speaking. You are never supposed to embellish or use any language that's descriptive in a way that draws an opinion.
Mhm.
Your perspective is only supposed to be fact based, right?
Mhm.
So you should never say anything that could imply something like, let's say you describe somebody and it could imply that they are more guilty or less guilty than just this is the event that happened. Person was arrested, right? Person was arrested and is the assumed person, and you have to constantly repeat it is an assumed thing or the accused or whatever until factually has flipped from true to false that they are guilty. Or if they are accused, then they are accused. Like you don't change that language. And today's day and age is like so many people who are reporting stuff and don't have any of that education, or they do and they just don't care because their bosses are telling them do this, do that, because this is how we make money. And so we're so far off. And like that's for me, it's always been a filter when I just see media. I'm like, I could just even read something and be like, they're not even supposed to talk like that. It's not
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
profession. And I'm like, 1/100th of like expertise in the profession of journalism, and I just know that like, yeah, that's not even the headline is written in a way that it goes against the rules of the craft. So the whole article is going to be a lie because they are going to lean in a direction and they're not supposed to lean in any direction. So frustrates me to see all this like fabrication of stuff and no one's just giving you the basic facts. Like when we go back to the Jonathan Majors thing, is like all I ever care about in this situation is the pure fact, right? He was arrested and accused. There is a court case. He is set to appear. Give me a result. Like these are
Mm.
the only true points in time that really matter, because everything else is just an opinion and a perspective without all the information. So how can you really come to any conclusion at this point when you're lacking so much
Yeah.
information, right? And we make so many decisions now. Obviously big business has got to make their decisions because they have money attached and there's perception and stuff like that. And it's not that they like wouldn't wait around if the public would all be like, yeah, we're all waiting, we're all cool, we're not like whatever, but the public isn't like that, so they have to watch their bank accounts, and that is what it is. So but yeah, unfortunate but glad to hear that Jamie Foxx is moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And yeah, moving on forward from there, I guess, right? Well, I guess that's on to me then.
You have the agenda.
I do have the agenda. Well, anyways, let's get into the meat of things that we really want to talk about, that we've been hyped about, that the world has been hyped about all week since last weekend, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So, who wants to go first in talking about their what they thought about the movie, their rating of the movie, their general review? Let's start off there. Maybe we'll start with Tactics, since we started with Umar last time.
Well, let's go with Umar since he saw it most recently.
Fair. All right, we'll slide it on back up.
Thanks, T, and thanks, Darcy. So, okay, I will say that I saw it here in Colombia, and I will also say that something I didn't know, that Colombia has D-box seats.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I got to see it in D-box seats, and it was a Monday night, so like there was like no one in there. There was like maybe like 8 people in there, but I will say all 8 people knew that it was a Marvel movie and stayed all the way to the end of the credits. I was like, no rookies in this theater. Now,
Nice.
for the film itself, I'll give my rating, I'll give my negatives, and then I'll give the positives. My rating is a solid 8 out of 10. I will say that it is lower than I anticipated for me to watch. But I will say that my negatives, which I will discuss, I feel that is a result. Not like it's not fair to put that on the movie. I think that was more expectations I had gotten before, because while I was in Colombia, I literally was having like every half day people being like, "Yo, man, you see Guardians yet? Yo, man, have you seen Guardians yet? Yo, man, when are you gonna watch Guardians? Yo, like we didn't talk about this. Like, when are you gonna see Guardians?" So I'm like, "Oh my god, is it Endgame level?" And then another thing people kept saying to me is like, "Dude, when you see it, let me know, because honestly, I like this more than the first movie." So unfairly, I was like hyped for this film. And then secondly, the entire film, which is unfair, I was comparing it to the first film
Mm,
because
mm,
I
mm, mm,
love
mm,
the
mm.
first film. Yeah, exactly, Darcy. Not cool, not fair to the film. So 8 out of 10 for me, but I will say that I am planning on watching it in a couple of weeks when I'm back, to kind of cleanse the palate, watch it with a fresh mind, and just kind of like put all critical aspects aside and just rewatch the film. But the reason I still give it an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. Really nice to Phase 5 of the MCU after a bit of a rocky start with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, gives us a solid film. Not that that's unlike James Gunn to do.
Mm, mm.
My problems with it are this. Firstly, I was not a fan with how they handled Adam Warlock. Like, he just kind of was there. Now, Tactics, I'll let you speak to the information you gave me regarding his entire character and what James Gunn had to do about it. But like, you were the one who informed me of like why he feels like he's shoed in. So I'll leave that for you, bro. But yeah, I was excited to see Adam Warlock. I like the actor. I'm not very familiar with the character, but I know enough of him, and I've read enough of him to like know that he is not the buffoon he was in the film. So that kind of I found a little jarring. I was just kind of like, well, this is kind of a waste of a character who is at least somewhat near Thanos level. So I was like, okay, well, that's a loss. But again, like, no big deal. Like, one character out of the entire film shouldn't wreck it. My other big problem with the film was and by the way, Adam Warlock, his issue kind of for me lasted the entire film. He never got better unless until like the post credit scene. Um, the second thing I found was, surprisingly, I found the humor to be the weakest point of this film. Like it almost was, it felt like it was trying to be funny, which was weird to me because like James Gunn makes me laugh. And don't get me wrong, it's not like he never made me laugh in the film. Like Nathan Fillion cracked me up. A whole
Mhm.
bunch of things that Drax said cracked me up. Um, Nebula Nebula and Mantis both surprised me in this film in a positive way. But like, I'm not saying that I didn't find it humorous. I just didn't find it humorous to the level of James Gunn, not just even Guardians. I mean like James Gunn quality, and it kind of reminded me of I think it was like the middle two Peacemaker episodes where I felt that the show was kind of trying to be something that it wasn't. But this kind of like this movie kind of gave me that feel in terms of the humor. Like it was trying to be funny. It was trying to like force humor in because they were dealing with heavy stuff. But yeah, so like I would and then this is a personal issue, so like I'm not gonna fault the movie for this, but like it was something that made me hard to enjoy the film. I don't know what's going on, all the sound over there, so I apologize. But I am sick to death of Star Lord. Like I don't care about his character arc. I enjoyed him in the first movie, tolerated him in the second movie. Then Endgame happened, Infinity War happened, and I was kind of like, yeah, I'm done with it. I don't care about him, but still not a terrible part of the film. I don't care about the character. I care about the other characters more. And so those are kind of like my big negatives about the film. My positives are, man, the emotional parts just hit me hard and unexpectedly hard. Like Rocket, everything to do with Rocket, dope as fuck. Um, Mantis surprised me both in her humor and her soulfulness and like the level of like just nuance and layers that she brings. Nebula's almost like seeing her where she is now versus where she started from in the beginning is like really beautiful to see. Drax, I mean, Dave Bautista's been bringing it since like the first film, so like I'm not going to be surprised by Drax like pulling it, but like yo, Drax, man. Like Drax does some great stuff. And I actually was surprised with how much I liked Gamora in this film. I thought I was going to be annoyed with her, like as like the will they won't they with Star Lord, but she was dope as hell. And the story, while at times, like I would say in the middle part, I kind of was losing a little bit of interest. Like I was kind of like, okay, let's move this along a little bit. But then, when it started to go, it went and it soared. And High Evolutionary, like I think Darcy, you were the one who sent me something about like the actor as being a Shakespearean actor, and like, yo, fuck that guy, just fuck that guy. He like the actor is great, the character sucks, and like, yeah, that was some solid acting, and the voice acting from Bradley Cooper and the other members of his animal crew, top notch, just top notch. So I'm gonna stop right there. And I'm gonna drop it back to you, T.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of my rating, I'm teetering between an 8 and an 8.5. What I will say is I really enjoyed I love the first one. I think the first one is probably my favorite. If I had to rank it, I'd go one,
Agreed.
3, 2.
Same.
Um, I still don't really even understand the hate for 2. Like a lot of people say that it's terrible, and I don't subscribe to that same camp. I thought 2 was fine. I enjoyed 2. It's not the most memorable out of the 3. But for me, going in not knowing anything about the Guardians other than the introduction and obviously the first film, I found 2 to be fine. I had no issues with it.
I found it
The
self-indulgent. but that's as worst as I can say about it.
I disagree, but okay, it's my turn.
Cool.
So, so one was good. Well, actually, one was great, mainly because, and I said this to you a long time ago, Umar. I knew nothing about the characters, and I went in with very low expectations. But you kept telling me, "Oh yeah, you got to watch it. You're gonna love it," and I was like, I don't know. But
Space.
yeah, exactly, right. Went in, and I was like, "This is a dope ass space movie, man. I like this a lot." But this one, I kind of agree with you in terms of the negatives regarding with Adam Warlock, Umar, but not so much in terms of how he was handled. Yeah, it was a little bit. It was a bit of a surprise to see how much they played up the buffoonery. But
Yeah.
again, because I don't know much about the character, it didn't bother me. But I can understand and respect how someone who is more familiar with the comic book and the character as a whole, how this would probably impact them, their opinion or their views on this character. But my main gripe with it was that I felt like he was shoehorned in there. Like he was kind of like more of a plot device, which
Yeah.
I can understand because as a director, when you're taking on a saga that spans pretty much like over 10 years and you have multiple parties coming in and like taking your characters and interweaving them into other storylines that are all supposed to kind of like mesh together and like lead to this one final conclusion. It's like like things can kind of not get messy, but it's almost like you have an original plan for your trilogy, but then you also have to accommodate and appease those who or the other stories that are involved. Like for example, James Gunn had no intention of killing off like he did and he didn't. Like he said that like he didn't necessarily have a plan to kill Gamora. Like he didn't want her to die, but Zoe Saldana said that she didn't want to commit to such a long character for that long duration of time. So he was gonna figure out a way to kind of like have her like go off and do her own thing or whatever. But then in Infinity War, they ended up killing her off because it fit the narrative of the story. So in part 3 or volume 3, he now has to work that into the story and like build this awkward tension with this new Gamora and everything. And so as a director, when you have that issue where it's like it's not just a trilogy that you have to worry about, it's the trilogy plus the overarching storyline that spanning over however many phases we're in right now, 4 or 5. So that's the challenge. That's the challenge there, right? So you're always having to adapt your story and like revamp things. So while how Adam Warlock was kind of shoehorned in was kind of a gripe for me, I understand it. It didn't feel it. It's a plot device, but it was kind of like, okay, well, we already set him up in volume 2, and now this is the end, and we still haven't introduced him, so we gotta do something. But we also have this other idea that we really need to flesh out. So it's like, how do you do it in that amount of time? And like this was already a long movie. It was 2.5 hours, which I was surprised by. So there's a lot to cover. And or was it 2.5 hours or was it two?
It was definitely 2.5 hours. But it's funny you should say that, T, because it reminds me a little bit like this sounds similar, not the same, but similar to like Black Panther Forever, Wakanda Forever. It's like they had to make fundamental changes because of outside situations.
Right.
Yeah.
So it becomes very difficult as a director to kind of handle all that. And I thought that James Gunn did a great job in handling all that. Darcy, you were going to say something.
There was an extra point to that when they were killing off Gamora, the Russo brothers actually called James Gunn and asked him if he could work it into his story, and he said, and he thought about it, and he's like, actually, yeah, he could make it work. And so the parts where Gamora and Star Lord and all that stuff, like that came out of obviously because of the death, but it's something he started to plan out to do. But the Adam Warlock stuff, he was very much, when he was asked, it's like, what was the most difficult thing to bring into the story? He's like, Adam Warlock. I think he hinted it, but he didn't really have a plan to keep it in this film, and probably just had to be like, here it is for the MCU. Like, do what you want with it, right? When he was probably playing this film, and they're like, no, you have to bring him in. And you're like, what?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, and even the way the movie ended, and this is spoilers, right? Like we're doing.
Yep. Full
Okay.
spoilers.
So at the end, just to kind of jump ahead a little bit, or well, to the very end actually, the legendary Star Lord will return was the end title card, right? So it's kind of like, okay, well, yo, what's your deal with Peter Quill, man?
I'm tired of the character, but like this is your review, so
So here's the thing. I've been hearing a lot of people like shitting on not only Peter Quill but also Chris Pratt as personally. And I don't understand either criticism, like especially with the Peter Quill thing, because yes, the Infinity War thing with him like fucking up I like how they called that back and they addressed it in Volume 3, where like he's actually like giving a play-by-play like of the events that occurred and saying, yeah, I almost destroyed
that was
great.
funny.
That was great. But the thing is, it's like people complain about moments like this, but it's like yes, it's a stupid play, but it's not enough to hate a character to the point where it's okay, like you fucked up, but it also pushed the narrative forward, because had they succeeded and they got the gauntlet, movie done. like, we won.
You can have end or you can have game, but you cannot have the end game. Okay.
So I mean, someone had to take the fall, and unfortunately, Peter Quill drew the short straw. So, you know,
I have heard this. Like people have tried to. I will say Peter Quill or Chris Pratt fans have tried to push the blame on Thor. It's like, well, he should have gone for the head. I'm like, he literally shoved his axe in a man's chest. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I felt like there's way more hate regarding. I mean, I know why I hate Thor, but I feel like there's a lot more hate with Chris Pratt.
Okay. Tactics. You like Infinity War Thor, though, right?
Yes.
That's the best Thor, okay?
Yeah. and Endgame Thor is also pretty dope.
I just want to make sure Love and Thunder did not make you hate it so much that you went all the way back to Infinity War Thor.
Destroyed the character arc
It's like Love and Thunder was like a specific Thor Infinity Stone for this guy. It's like snap, he's out of existence.
Yeah. I love what you said last week, Darcy, where you're like, Thor Love and Thunder, no matter what phase it would have been in, it would have pissed off Tactix in that phase.
I saw that part.
Yeah,
I was laughing at that part. But yeah, okay, so I like all the characters. Honestly, there's not a dull character in Guardians of the Galaxy for me. There are ones that stand out a lot more. I'm glad that Rocket Raccoon finally we got to see his backstory, and man, is it tragic, because like James Gunn has made me cry over a fucking tree and a raccoon. Dude's a genius.
Take that in for a second.
It's insane. Like the emotional heartstrings that were tugged during this movie. Like me and my girl were watching this, and we just got super emotional, and she loved it. I loved it. And the way it was handled, and yeah, it was a beautiful storyline, beautiful setup for or a resolve for Rocket Raccoon. Loved it. Loved Groot. I love how they handled Groot. I love one of my I have a lot of favorite scenes, like that corridor fight scene.
The single cam?
Oh yeah, 2 minutes of mastery, man. Like the way that they handled that was beautifully done. Yeah, this scene here, fantastic. Probably the best action scene that we've seen in the entire trilogy. Like this was beautifully done, man. I loved it. And
best Marvel wonder since Daredevil.
Yeah, agreed. I love the development of Nebula, because in the first, like when she's first introduced, she's a villain. You're kind of like, oh, okay, she's like low tier, so you don't really care about her all that much. And then when she shows up in Volume 2, she's like, all right, you're just kind of annoying. And then she has her little thing in like Infinity War and Endgame. But this, you really get to see a little bit more depth, which I really liked. I love when she gets emotional when she hears Rocket is alive for the first time. Like that got me. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't expecting to react emotionally to that, but that was a deep touching moment. Love Mantis. Mantis is hilarious. She's so adorable. This
She
scene right here.
fucking loves it.
Hello, I love that scene. That scene was great. Yeah, I love her character. She's always been fun for me. Drax, I thought was great, and the way that they handled Drax as well. I know some people might complain regarding like they use the term nerf a lot to describe him because like in the comics he's apparently a lot more ruthless than he is in this. Like it seemed like the common complaint was like, you know, he's supposed to be Drax the Destroyer, but he's only really ever menacing in the first 5 minutes of screen time that he has in the first movie, and then he's getting his ass kicked for the rest of it, right? So they kind of dumbed down his character apparently in comparison to the comic, but I've loved his character ever since the introduction, and I thought like the way that they handled it and got to see there wasn't much expansion in terms of acting range for Dave Bautista in this particular role, but it worked with the type, like James Gunn was able to fit him in nicely and flesh him out over a span of these 3 movies. So I really enjoyed that. Peter Quill, hilarious. I like how he always seems kind of like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and it's like, why are you the captain? But then that scene where he's like, where he kept saying like, this isn't a what was it? It's not a trap, it's a face off. And like when he kept saying that, I was like, I don't know, bro. Like, I think you gotta listen to your teammates. And then that scene where it's just like I said, this isn't a trap, it's a face off. And then you see Groot take out all the guns and he hands the guns. I was like, yo, that's sick. I wasn't even expecting that.
So I called the guns. I did not call jumping out the window with his wings.
That was dope.
I'm with you there.
I was like,
yeah. That was dope.
Yeah. And the wings, nice surprise. Nice surprise. I'm like, that makes total sense. He could do that. What other things are we not thinking he could do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see him in the end credit scene. He's like King Groot, where he's like a monstrous tree now.
He was like a Hulk.
Yeah. So like, yeah, this man's a beast. So yeah, that was cool. Gamora was Gamora. Like, I like how they handled that, and they didn't make it cheesy with her like getting back together with Peter Quill. I felt like the way James Gunn handled that situation was perfectly done. And it kind of gave everyone a reason to kind of disband and go their own separate ways, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Who else am I missing? I guess we'll move on to the High Evolutionary. Whoever, I think it was Jimmy that said it, like, fuck this guy. Yeah, that was accurate, because he's not, I wouldn't say in terms of motive, he's not the greatest villain. Like, and I think Jimmy was saying this too, where it's like, he's not a villain where you're like, oh, I can understand your rationale or why you would feel compelled to, yeah. With this, you're just a fucking dick, but like, damn, like it's
you a dick.
It's the nigga you love to hate. You know what I mean? Like
you a high caliber, first class asshole.
They don't all need to be relatable.
No, yeah, and 100%.
Exactly, yeah.
Like you're like it's almost like, yeah, like it's like I like you as a villain, but I fucking hate you. Like you as a person, like you need to die, but like you like stay on screen and like do some more menacing shit to like earn that ass whooping, and he definitely earns that ass whooping. So.
I will say one of the things that, like, I was surprised how much this annoyed me, and probably because I've sitting waiting for a lot. When he just did this to Peter and like Groot showing up, and it was just like he's like doing his stuff and has his finger up, being like, "I'll be with you in a minute," and makes him sit for like 10 minutes. I'm like, "Yo, fuck you!"
But I like how Peter handled that situation, where it was kind of like he's like, because he's heard the same speech over and over again from Thanos, from Ronan, and it's just like, bro, I don't got time for this shit, man. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Like, so
yeah,
I love that part. I mean, like, I laughed, man. I like I enjoyed myself, and this is why, like, when I said after I finished watching it, I was like, this is Marvel returning back to form, because it's like I walked out of that and I had a good time. And it's been so long since I've felt that, where I walked out of a Marvel movie and have like been like, you know, I really want to go back and watch that again, or like or I'm talking about it and not in disdain, but actual joy and excitement. Like I was like, oh man, like I really had a good time. Like after me and my girl walked out of the movie theater, we were talking about it for a good hour afterwards, and like reflecting on like our favorite scenes and whatnot. And so the sad part is that this is the last we're going to see of all of the members together, which is unfortunate. But I felt like, and I think because you were saying that, I think it was you, Umar, that people were anticipating this being might be a bad movie or whatever. And I think the main reason for that is because usually trilogies don't do all that well, or sorry, like the third film in the trilogy usually doesn't do all that well, right? It's usually the worst of the series, and oddly enough, the second one ended up being the worst of this trilogy. So
Yeah.
All in all, just to kind of wrap up my overall thoughts, I really enjoyed the movie. I walked out like feeling great, had a good time with it. I actually want to see it again, which is rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the imagery too, like all the characters, like the anamorphs or whatever you call them, that was dope. Like War Pig
There
and
was a
all
lot
that.
of layers.
Yeah,
A
Oh
lot of layers.
yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
like
forgot about that.
yeah, like that shit was cool. Like when I saw them on screen for the first time, I'm like, oh man, they look fucking disgusting and sick and dope at the same time.
Did y'all get the reference though? Because it doesn't seem like you guys got the reference.
No, I don't know if I caught the reference.
Okay, no, think of the war pig and think of the dude beside it, and think of the turtle thing he created. Doesn't it all look like TMNT but done
Yeah.
horrifically?
Oh,
That's the reference.
okay,
When they
yeah,
were
yeah.
two standing out there, I was like, "That's what are their names again?"
Oh, Bebop and Rocksteady.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's just James Gunn just throwing a just random reference. He's like he's making, because High Evolution is just making all these random animals. So he's like, might as well do some TMNT. When I saw that turtle, I was like, that is TMNT horror film.
Yeah.
I know. I didn't say that exactly, but I was like, I kind of turned to my partner. I was just like, oh wow, like TMNT. They didn't know what that meant, so I was like, okay, never mind. But like,
I'm by myself.
I just make the comment to myself. And then, like, that was the end of it.
In all fairness, I felt that way too, and I was like leaning on my partner. I'm like, oh, dude, like, no, I enjoyed it by myself. I enjoyed it by myself. One of those like, nah, don't even try it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my overall view. I love this movie. Yeah, I think 8 8 for me.
Yo, I gotta call it Chris Tari. Horrors in a half shell. Turtle terror.
Horrors in a half shell. Turtle terror. I like it.
I like it. Well said. Well said.
Yeah, that was properly done there. Properly done. Well, I guess we throw it over to myself now for my review. I'm coming in a little bit hotter than you two. I'm 9 out of 10 hard. All that sounds wrong. that was I'm like, I had a couple more words left in that sentence and it wasn't getting any better. But anyways, yeah, I love the film. For me, it is 3-1-2 in terms of my rankings. Now, that's because I'm a sucker for, if a movie can make me cry and really be attached to certain emotions, then it's going to win out for me. The first one had some good emotions, but this one just brought it to a different level for me. It made me laugh, had action. And the thing was, it actually had the least amount of action. Out of all the three components in this film, it was the least. But when it hit, they didn't waste a second with it, you know?
I wept.
Oh yeah,
I wept in this film.
It was absolutely fantastic. But let me run through a couple of things here. So, Adam Warlock, I totally understand the perspective. However, I really enjoyed him. Like, I get all everyone's annoyance with not using him right. But how to put this? Like, Will Poulter just sold that character the way he was meant to act that character so well that I enjoyed every time he was on screen. Like he was stealing every scene Like for me, I will laugh so hard every time I think of Gamora. Like it's like, don't move, the little one gets it. All right, don't be rash. And I was just like, when he said that, I'm just like, this is like, your character is just so all over the place. It's hilarious. Like he's like in a scene and he's just like, they're like, show me mean business, and just incinerates the dude. And you're just like, that's not what I meant. And you're like, holy. And when they actually showed him incinerated, I was like, is this still MCU? Like that was like Deadpool level. Because like, like in the ratings, whenever you kill an alien, you can get away with something. But that alien was 95% human.
Yeah.
Its skeleton was 100% human. So I was just like, how did they get away with this? Like, how did James get? I know, but like, of all things, like the F-bomb, I'm like, okay, yeah, some uppity parent can get mad about it, but I'm like, the skeleton though, like that's a lot harder to explain to your child. Like,
He went to sleep.
he went to sleep and took his face off.
Speaking of face off, holy.
Mommy, is that what you mean when you say you go to bed, you take your face off? Is that what you do? Because that's kind of scary, Mom. But anyways, yeah. So I enjoyed him, and the one thing I will say is that I feel like with the way this character is, and going all the way to the end of the film where he like does his thing to save like Quill's character. And then they have this like the moment where everyone kind of hugs, and he's like, I'm gonna join in because I want to be here, right? And then he's also, make sure I'm getting this correct, he was in the post-credit scene, right?
Yeah.
He joined the Guardians. It for me, it tells me like the way this movie ends with the post-credit scene that we're gonna get more Guardians. It's just gonna be a different cast, right? And he is set up to go in the direction to become the character that we know, where everything I've always heard about him is that he is both like hero but has twisted problems, right? And ends up becoming problematic for people. I feel like he's set up to become the lost child who is just joining everything, kind of how Homelander needs something to attach himself to. He's not as messed up as Homelander, but he's like going to attach himself to stuff, and then he's going to become a villain, but like the villain you understand, you want him to stay a hero, but he keeps getting pulled in different directions. In a way, he's going to be like, this is not a strong, I'm not trying to make a strong correlation here, but like kind of pulled like Anakin towards Palpatine, in that he could be easily manipulated at the wrong time with the wrong person, and ends up going to, the dark side, so to speak. But he's not the chosen one or nothing like that. I'm just getting at the point of like, being easily manipulated in that way. So anyways, overall, I really enjoyed him. I want to see this guy continue to act this character. I do hope that it brings more to the comics and makes everybody happy, but I ain't mad right now. Okay. In terms of characters, I love Drax. I love the whole father thing. That was really, really amazing. Just to have that moment where he, showed what more he has that everyone doesn't see. And I also loved what Mantis said about him, and how
that hit hard.
Yeah, and like that says a lot about a lot of people. Like he just doesn't care, like he loves himself and everybody else isn't, even though he's an idiot, right? I also love when you watch these videos going on TikTok, and they're talking about how he originally in the first movie said he wouldn't dance because dancing is for idiots, and then by the end of this film he's dancing because he accepts himself as being the idiot, even though Mantis made him forget that. He still ends up at the same place. Such small details that James Gunn just doesn't leave anything. Like he just has so much love and thought put into his characters. Umar, what are you gonna say?
And the thing about Batista, especially in that scene with him, and when Mantis says when she's defending him, and he's like, I'm not sure if I appreciate this defense, this line of defense on his character, but I did actually find the fact that like he had it was a very quick second, but like he had a very strong moment of being genuinely hurt by Mantis, by calling him an idiot, and like Batista sold it. Like I agree with a lot of people online who are saying that Batista, out of the three wrestlers turned actors, he is he has had the most improvement, and also he has the most talent. Because after watching Cabin in the Woods, he plays a gentle giant who's not so gentle, and it's unnerving at the same time. It's heartwarming to see, and like seeing Drax kind of pull what you're saying, Darcy, like becoming the father that he was and that he lost, and like he became a destroyer because he lost his family, but he never hated himself for it. And now he's accepted himself as the idiot who also is like looking after an entire population of kids.
Yeah, yeah. Beautifully said too, but that he never hated himself for what he became. He became, and yeah, very well said. Mantis, I mean, she's amazing. Like she's just funny. Everything about her.
Sorry, I'll interrupt one last time. She caused some havoc in this film in the fight sequences. Like she made those guys like I was like, oh, she's probably gonna like put people to sleep. She's like, shoot this person, go on a killing killing spree, and also like fall in love with Drax. And Drax is like, not again.
Oh, the Drax.
that was hilarious. I that I actually found I found funny. But then seeing her actually like cause emotional damage to her like enemies was dope. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's a really good use of power, but that Drax thing kills me, especially the like not again, and it's also you can see how good their bond is because like how much he accepts it, and he's not like if you think of it happened in the first film, his reaction would have been grand, right? He would have been very overt about like how displeasing he was. And at this point, he's just kind of almost laughing about it, right? Like he's just like, you doing it again, but like it works, right?
It's definitely like a big brother sister vibe going on because he even like at the end he wants to go with her, but she's like, no, like I got to do this on my own.
Yeah. They've had such a great bond, and it's interesting like how all the characters are really well paired, right? Like her and Drax are very much the odd ones out, and have found like solace in each other that way. Originally, Gamora and Peter Quill were obviously matched in a literal way, and then you have I skipped ahead. I thought my next photo was this one. I'll go back that in a second. But like and then you have like Nebula and Rocket are very well paired together because they're both characters have been taken apart and put back together, and they also the two that end up living through Infinity War into Endgame and spent 5 years together, which going to her character, like, well, one, like the fact that he made this arm for her after she gifted him
Bucky's
Winter
arm?
Soldier, Bucky's arm, which I'm like, we still don't know how she got that, and it's like such an amazing gift. Like, here's Bucky's arm. He's like, you got the arm. But like, and their bond for the 5 years, and her emotional scene when she tears up over hearing a Rocket, like it hit her harder than everybody else, and Peter was just literally crying to not accepting the death and fighting to keep him alive, and yet her reaction felt way deeper, right? And you feel that depth of the 5 years of them spending together alone and being close. And like when she had the scene where she saw what happened to Rocket and she goes, that's worse than what happened to me. And I was just like, like we literally watched you be pulled apart like a deconstructed sandwich hovering on like when you see a McDonald's commercial and they're like, here's the layers, and they put it back together. We saw you hovered in the air like that, and we didn't even watch what happened to Rocket. We just saw it off screen. You're like, nope. That's worse. Like we can't even show that to the kids, right? Like you can see me and all my little like screws and bolts hanging in the air, but we can't watch that. And like, so yeah, it's amazing to see what she's done and how this character is and how it's gone from the first film, her being like the sexy character, like the sexy robot, to now being like just like I don't know. I love the evolution where it's like they don't emphasize that anymore.
Yeah.
And we really focus in on her character and her acting of the character. It's just quite fantastic. Since I skipped over it, I love this character. Like every scene with Cosmo, especially everything about the like you're a bad girl, and then she's like, no, you don't mean that, and then the whole film waiting for the payoff at the end where it's like because she's a good girl, smashes the stuff and kills the guy. I'm like, yeah, I just it was just like it was so silly, but I loved it. It was like just a little extra. That's a salt for me. That character was just a salt for me in this movie. It was just like so good. Gamora, I love the handling of Gamora. I like especially the final scene where she goes back with Ravagers and you actually see how tight she is with the Ravagers and how that's her Guardians of the Galaxy, that's her family, and everyone's kind of misinterpreting everything and about that, and it's really nice to see that kind of multiverse kind of thing where it's like, well, what is a person if the events are different? And she is a very different person, and she's similar but she's very different. And I like the handling of their relationship, that they didn't get back together, and nothing kind of really worked out the way that anyone would anticipate it, and everyone had their way, and it's just like it felt real, like it just felt like how this stuff would go down. Like there's no way in this film, especially with everything else going on, that Peter Quill could have done anything to win her back, right? To make this other version fall in love with him and all that stuff. And so I'm glad we didn't try that, because otherwise it would have felt like the most shoot-in rom-com ever that we just didn't need. Getting into the High Evolutionary, like you guys said, fuck this guy. Like he's the acting from this guy was amazing. It was like the scene where he kills Lila and then mocks Rocket in his grief. Like just the God complex in this guy. Like his literal statement is, God doesn't exist, that's why I had to step in. Like, and of course this guy can only make 90s people. Like a planet full of the 1990s is like the most you focus on your God complex, but you don't actually have genius ideas. Like
you're just ripping off everything.
He's just like a really smart scientist who has really believed in your own hubris, but actually doesn't know enough about humanity to actually create one. But yeah, and then just everything with Rocket. I mean, it's so glad we all knew we were coming here, but we didn't know how much everything about the three Guardians was about Rocket and how much it was his origin story to becoming the leader. And everything he had to go through. This scene here is the scene that stuck with me the most. And I don't know if there's like an anime or something it reminds me of, but it's probably One Piece. It definitely is One Piece. Because let me put it this way. This moment where he goes, I'm done running. So like everybody is ready to leave. Everyone just got together. Peter is like, let's go now while we have the chance. So they have everything set up to just get off the ship and go away. And everyone's like, we got to save our lives. Like that's everyone's prerogative in that moment, until Rocket says, I'm done running, and turns and walks. And without hesitation, every one of them turns and walks with him. They go from let's save ourselves to let's put our life on the line, no questions asked. And when I tell you, this is my little sales pitch, that's what watching One Piece is like half of the damn time, where it's just like that's what the way they are with their friendship. It doesn't matter what the reason is, we got you, right? We'll put our lives on the line every single time. And so that had me. The backstory, seeing him as a kid, hearing the voice, hearing the
Oh,
youthfulness, the happiness when he like solved why the machines weren't working, and it was just like
hurt.
it was so innocent, and he was just going like, yeah, you messed this up, like da 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 da, and then he like hurt the hubris of the High Evolutionary so deeply. It was like the biggest thing that man had since whatever his mother did to him when he was born, like that, like it set him on this horrible path. And yeah, it just that plus everything with his friends and
His first words.
seeing how bad like things were done to them, like how messed up
Yeah.
Teefs is, how messed up Lila is, how weirdly messed up Floor is. Like you made a rabbit into a spider and took its mouth out. Like what was that creation for? Like where were you going with that? Just to see you could do it? Like there was no every time I looked at the mouth it hurt me because I was like what was the
Yeah.
purpose of taking the mouth out? I don't understand it. I don't understand why you would make it into a spider. You know, I don't know why you would like. What did they do to Teefs? Like they had to replace his eyes and then put him in a man-made wheelchair concept. Like what did they do to the rest of his body to do that? Like what were the purposes of these things? Right? Like it felt like no direction and then just manipulate their bodies for the sake of it, which just makes you hate the guy way more because it's so wasteful. And I mean, it looks like they're sitting in a cell of bones. So, you know, on top of that, like it's just such a horrible backstory, but you know, amazingly done. Like the opening scene where you see the hand reaching in, and I was like, this is like a horror film in the first scene. This film had like horror, comedy, emotions, action. Like for me, that's why I'm saying it's a 9 out of 10. That's why I'm loving it. So yeah, those are all my points. So I had to go through all that, but you know that's what I feel about that film. So I have a question for you guys. Now with the way that we see in this film, are you guys hyped for the DCU now, considering James Gunn is running that?
T, how about you go first?
Mostly yes, because this man hasn't missed yet. I'm still a little, I'll be honest, I'm a little skeptical about the Batman and Robin.
Okay.
Um, I'm not 100% sure why.
Because of the last one?
Trauma.
That could be
Like,
it.
PTSD.
just a name
PTSD.
alone?
Yeah. Just by association, yeah, that's probably it. But overall, yes, I think with James under the helm, I think that DC is in more than capable hands. So yeah, I'm excited.
I keep trying to emphasize my shirt. You just don't see it. Okay. Umar, what about yourself?
I'm in the same boat as Tactics. Like um, it's not that I don't have faith in James Gunn. It's just that I don't want to get my hopes up because he still has to deliver, and unfortunately now due to the writer's strike, all like everything's on hold, and we're gonna have to find out like how that affects everything. But I don't think he can make bad films because we have been watching bad films in DCEU. Like there have been some good moments, but they have been bad films.
The bar is low.
And
The bar is low.
yeah, the bar is low. So like now that James Gunn's taking over, like that automatically gives hope. And I'm have extremely guarded hope, and I'm keeping low expectations because as much as I trust in Gunn, and you're right, like he hasn't like Peacemaker, all three Guardians films, he like we haven't gotten a bad film. Like you can rate which one you liked better, but like there's nothing bad about it. So the fact that he's currently like focused on Superman, well, was focused on Superman before the writer's strike, that's a good sign. But at the same, but I'm still guarded because like with this film, I went in with high expectations and I ended up being a little bit disappointed. So that's not like he's not above.
You can't equate that.
All I'm saying is he like when I went in to go see The Dark Knight, my expectations were through the roof, and not only did it meet it, it exceeded it. Same thing happened with Endgame. Like I was like a year into like going about absolute crazy, and this thing blew me the fuck away. there are people who can meet or exceed your expectations when you have high expectations. Gunn, for me, can't do that, but that's not knock against him. So I'm wanting to give him the benefit of the doubt and keep my expectations low, so I go in with a fresh mind.
So you're saying you only gonna give the DCU a chance if it's like if it's the Dark Knight basically out the gate, like
No, that's not what I'm saying.
this man's like, yo, I come to the DC EU and all you serve me half the time is uncooked chicken. But now we got a new guy in. This guy could give me a nice good filet mignon, but it is not the best filet mignon I've ever had in my life. So
That wasn't
it
what I was saying.
it doesn't count.
I'm just saying, can he still make a filet mignon that I know he can make in this kitchen?
Ooh, I like how you took that analogy. That was good. that was good. I mean, going off that point, I'm super hyped. I think that from the perspective of Superman, I'm really interested to see what he's going to do with Superman, because how much he puts into the emotional aspect of it. I like we get. No, obviously, I'm not going to go back to the original Superman movies because I was young and I barely watched them, and I probably still need to go watch them. I know I do. But since we've been past puberty in our lives, we haven't got any Superman properties with super emotional depth. Man of Steel had some stuff in it. It had some stuff in it. It had some implications here and there, but it was it is nowhere near Guardians 1 through 3 level emotions. Okay, like it doesn't have that weight to it, and the fact that I know Gunn will do a good job of making a light movie that I feel like at some point is going to do like three things. It's going to be really like positive, yet it's going to hit you with some perplexing, difficult moment that Superman has to make decisions through, that's going to have a lot of weight to it. And he's going to make you feel something very deeply emotional, kind of in the realm of Superman and Lois, where we get Tyler Hoechlin doing stuff, delivering on scenes like his mother passing and stuff like that, where I think he'll hit us with something that will make us feel the weight of being human. Even though you're a Superman, you can't fix everything. So I think he's going to find a way to bring those three pieces together. The only thing that is more of a gamble for me, but I like his approach so far, is working with the other directors in building in meeting his long-term vision.
Yeah.
But he has stated that he only wants to work with directors of a certain type of caliber. And he's mentioned certain names, Matt Reeves and whatnot, that are very visionary, very focused on the story, the character. They're not just going to pump out stuff. And that tells me that he's going to be very selective about who he chooses, unlike the past DECU, where it's just like, this person's got a big name, throw them on this film. So I think that that's going to be a good thing. The only thing that could potentially happen is if he doesn't agree with certain directors. But that man's known for having a lot of agreement with actors, so that's boding in the right direction. But
He has
it's
good
still
working relationships.
yeah, he does a really good job of building relationship. I mean, he came in a bad situation, just like met with everybody, and people who were like, he didn't have to meet with me. I'm actually impressed that he like called me in to see him in the office when he could just call me over the phone or like sent me an
Yeah, like
email,
Henry
like
Cavill.
most
He
people.
treated Henry Cavill with respect.
Yeah, and so I feel like he will garner good relationships, and he'll have the tough conversations early and be like, yeah, this isn't the direction. I like you, what you're doing, but what you would do, but this isn't what we're trying to do. So like respectfully, we'll look for like another property down the line that is a better fit for both of us. But yeah, and I feel like he has a higher chance of creating something great, but still to be determined on the long term, 10 films in 9 different directors you're working with, to see how all that how that plays out. But yeah. Anyways, that's it for today. Omar, I'm gonna volley to you because I forget how to close, or Tactix, I volley to you. Sorry, I forget how to close. There it is.
All right, guys. Well, this has been another edition of the Geeky Bros podcast. Please like, favorite, and subscribe. Leave a comment and show your love. Until next time, I'm your boy Tactix.
It's just Darcy here.
And this is Big Geek Umar. Live long and prosper, y'all, and have a great weekend.
I need IT support.